Okay, you should go now.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. It's Wednesday, March 13th, 2024. Calling to order 5:45 p.m. the Finance Committee of the Board of Education. With me tonight, I have Board Chair Diane Carpio and Secretary of the Board, Kara Nelson Bakey. I have Chief Financial Officer, Linda Asmani, and Kristen, I'm not sure what your title is. Tell me, Kristen Carmit, who also works in the finance office. Your correct title?
I'm in the budget office.
Thank
Good
you.
How is everyone?
Everyone is well. The first item on the agenda is their approval of the minutes. Would someone like to make a motion on
I'd like to motion if we can table them for next month.
that? Okay. Motion by Ms. Carpio, and I will second. So those minutes of meeting November 8th will be tabled. The next is public comments. I'm not sure if there's anybody on who would like to speak.
I didn't see anyone on. I didn't see anyone on.
Okay, thank you. The next item would be the year-to-date financial report. So Mr. Asmani and Ms. Karsmit, you are on.
I'm going to share my screen and I will have the year-to-date and the financials. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, I'm gonna have to make it bigger though, just because it's, but yes, we can see it.
You said make it bigger?
No, I can do it here. It's fine. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've got copies of the documents anyway, so go ahead.
All right. So yes, so it is again, these minutes are as of the end of February 2024. This is our 8th month of the year, so it reflects about 66% of the year. And year to date, we are at 60% of the budget. So which is kind of typical where we would be this time. You do have a full detailed report with the narrative, but I just kind of like go through the major buckets here and give you some highlights of what the trends are. And then if there are any questions, I might be happy to answer those. So I'll begin with our salaries. You'll see that as far as salaries are concerned, we're at about 59% of salaries expended year to date. This is about 8.7% higher than we were last year. And the major reason for that is you'll recall that prior to this year, we did have a number of positions that were funded by ESSER funds in the grants. And so when we approved the budget this year, we moved those positions from the grant accounts into the general fund account. And so they're reflected here. This time last year, these positions, the interventionist, and we had some coaches, some workers. These positions were paid out of the grant, and now they're paid in this budget. So that's why you see the year-to-date increase higher on the local side. When you look at the grant side, you'll see a corresponding decrease because those positions are no longer on the grants. But that's where we are year-to-date. But again, it is consistent with what we had budgeted for this year. And I don't anticipate any major issues at this point with where we would end with that year. The second line here are benefits. And as you know, we pay for benefits out of a separate health insurance fund, health insurance account. What we do is we transfer funds from the general fund to the benefits account, and that's where all the benefits. And so this reflects, we've transferred about half of this year's budget into the benefits account, and that's where you see that it's about 52% year to date. We will do another third quarter transfer, and then in the fourth quarter, we kind of view and assess where we are, how the trends are, if we fully need to transfer all of those funds into the insurance account, or if we use those to offset some other expenses throughout the year. Or in the reverse, if we see that we need more benefits transfers, then we will do the same thing. We would look at these accounts and by way of transfers, we will bring to you. But at this point, we don't anticipate any major issues with the transfers, with the benefits, sorry. The next one on this list is professional and technical services. You'll see that year to date, we're at 54%, but it's about 22% less than when we were last year. You'll recall that when we approved this year's budget, the mayor did provide an additional 2.5 million by way of the city's ARPA grants. And therefore, we had about $2.5 million of professional services, supplies, and equipment that we are charging to that $2.5 million, which is set up as a separate grant for auditing and tracking purposes. And therefore, the reason you're not seeing those in the general fund is because we're paying them out of that $2.5 million that we receive from the city. So this year, it does reflect a 20% reduction compared to where we are last year, but those additional expenses reflected in the grant. Property services is at about 72%. It's about 9.1% higher than last year. The major driver of the increase in property services is we outsourced our custodial services to a company called Affinico. And with Affinico, we have a contract with our custodians in the union contract. As custodians retire, we outsource that work to Affinico. And so each year, we will see an increase in our outsourced custodial services, but that is marked by a decrease in our in-house custodial salaries. In addition to that, they took on some additional space just because of the volume. Nathan Hale, the South Norwalk Incubator School. We've also have some boiler repairs that we pay out of property services. We've had a couple of those pop up this year, and so that's part of the reason why you're seeing that increase. And then supplies and equipment, they're also trending where we'd anticipate to trend, but you'll see that supplies is about 14% below where we would have been last year, and equipment is about 50% below. And again, this is the other bucket where we applied the $2.5 million that we received from the city to offset expenses in the general fund. So we're charging those expenses to that account, and therefore this year it's reflecting that decrease. And then other objects, this is really just a timing. Mostly what we pay out of this are memberships and subscriptions. We haven't really increased the number of subscriptions, but it's really just the timing of when we pay those subscriptions, and by the end of the year, it should level off. So at the end of the year, but at the end of the day, our general fund is at 60.1% year-to-date spend. We are 66% in the year. The only thing that I keep sharing with you that we're tracking is our out of district, which is reflected in those other services as well, where you see that 19.7%. We continue to see an increase in out of district tuition, and we're tracking that. And you'll see in the next agenda item, you'll see some transfers that come your way. And so what we're doing is we're looking for savings in other accounts so that we can offset those expenses in out of district tuition related to specialized learning. We anticipate that by the end of the year, we will be fine in terms of the entire general fund. But as you know, the state allows us to transfer 2% of unused funds into the following year. The way that we're trending this year, it doesn't seem that we will have much to transfer just because all of those savings, we're using them up for out of district transportation and tuition. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have as far as the year-to-date budget report.
Does anyone have any questions, comments? Guess not. So do we want to move over to budget transfers?
And the transfers are also on your screen now. And I will have Kristen walk us through these.
Good evening, everyone. Very short list this month. And the first transfer on here kind of relates to what Luna was just speaking to, where as vacancies come about with our custodians, we transfer those funds in order to accommodate the Affinico outsourced services. So you'll see a total of 180,000 transferring from salaries and benefits to the outsourced service account. The second transfer here, you'll see we currently have a PCN or a role in place that's vacant for a project manager under facilities. It's still vacant, so we're taking the remainder of that vacancy money, 36,000, and we have outsourced that position. We're hoping that we're keeping this in the budget, and the thought is to hire for it next year for 2024. And finally, the last budget transfer here is just moving funds from all of the enrollment holdback accounts to the proper accounts where they should be based on a slightly new methodology. This year, we are considering the MLL spike in enrollment, where usually we just do it off the total enrollment. So that's the difference there. That's it for budget transfers. Are there any questions?
So that project manager role, so is there a specific project that role will be overseeing, or is it general where the role is needed?
It's a typical role in the facilities department. I don't know personally what projects it's overseeing. Maybe you know that, Lunda, or we can get that answer for you.
No, we could get that answer for you, but generally it's just overseeing the number of internal in-house projects, cafeteria repairs and those types of things. And we had a person in that role that's no longer with the organization, and so we've been recruiting for it, but it's vacant, and so we hope to fund that.
So just, I'm just curious, the release enrollment holdback funds. I know, Kristen, you just explained what that is, but could you just kind of like peel that back a little bit? So what do we do now? I don't understand totally what that means.
So typically every year we hold back 0.5% within all the student-based budgets, and we put that aside. There are years where the policy states that we take a look at the October and November enrollment to see versus budget where the schools are up or down versus the budgeted enrollment. We'll look at the levels, so elementary, middle school, high school, and we'll see where that pot of money should go within the school. Now, this year we waited a little bit longer because we were just seeing where we are in the budget this year, where we're in the budget cycle for next year, and we modified the enrollment change. We focused on the MLL increase versus the total increase. So where somebody's up versus the budget enrollment, obviously there's a cost per pupil there, and we spread it. It's not going to be dollar for dollar. It's probably like 25 cents on the dollar.
Right. Does anybody else have any questions before we move on to the update for FY25?
No question, but thank you for the explanation on the enrollment holdbacks. That's what I was going to ask too.
No problem.
So who is going to provide us with the update?
I'll give you an update. I'm trying to remember if this requires a motion because this gets approved eventually by the board. Yeah.
Yes. So I think you're right about that. So I will accept a motion on the budget transfers, folks.
Motion.
Seconded.
Motion by Ms. Carpio, second by Ms. Baby. So that item has passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the final piece is just giving you an update on where we are with the FY25 budget development. Actually, tonight at 6:30, the board will be presenting our budget to the Board of Estimates and Taxation. They have a meeting that begins at 6:30. I think we're second on the agenda, so we'll probably be coming on about 7 or so. And so, Sherry, you know the process. They're starting with the grant agencies first, and then the board.
Yeah.
And then the Board of Ed budget. And as you know, last week the council approved the budget cap, which is about a 4% increase on the city side. So right now we're looking potentially at a 4% increase for the Board of Ed, which is obviously less than the 8.2% that we'll be making our case to the Board of Estimates and Taxation this evening. And then next week on the 20th, there is a public hearing on the budget by the Board of Estimates and Taxation. So we will work with our communications team just to get the word out so we can have people and give their inputs and opinions on the budget, but that's where we are with that. And then we have also started the process of looking at the school-based budgets. Somewhat what Kristen had alluded to, we start looking at projected enrollment and what the available funds are. So we have started the process of working on those school-based budgets, and then we will be meeting with all the schools through the month of March and into April and into early May. And our goal this year is because in June you switched around your meeting dates, and so we hope to bring to you the budget for final approval at the June. I believe the business meeting is on the 5th this year, June 5th. But what I would also like to do is at the Finance Committee meeting right before that, which would be the May Finance Committee meeting, I may request that maybe we change the dates and possibly invite more Board of Ed members to participate, just because I recall last year during budget adoption, we had the conversation about not having enough time to look at the numbers. And so I would talk to superintendent, but I'll definitely recommend that we have a May meeting of the Finance Committee, but invite the full board so we can all collectively kind of dive into the numbers so that the full board doesn't see the numbers for the first time in June and expect them to approve it at the same time. So that's really the budget update. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I don't have any questions or comments. Does anybody else have any questions or comments on the FY25 budget?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
I'm good as well. Good luck tonight, Linda.
All right, thank you. We will keep you posted.
I will be
Sounds
on
good.
that call. I will be repping the Board of Ed and the Fair Housing Office because I'm a commissioner on the Fair Housing Office. And I
Oh,
know
okay. You have a long night ahead of you.
they're on there too. So anyway, so if there is nothing else, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion?
Motion, Miss Bakey, to adjourn. Second.
Seconded.
Okay, guys, thank you very much for your time. Have a good evening. The motion has been accepted and we are going to adjourn at 6:03.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Good
Bye-bye.
night. Bye.